Hey there and welcome back to XCOM 2. My name is Pete and today we complete episode 60 of our Legend Ironman walkthrough of XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. It's been a while since the last episode, and to be entirely honest, it should have been a little while longer. The first episode of our RimWorld Anomaly series should have been out by now. Unfortunately though, the whole setup for that series took me a lot longer than expected, so it will be a few more days, and in the meantime we'll have ourselves some more XCOM. Now, to get us started, a quick refresher on where we are currently at in this series. Firmly in the endgame, we are on the path towards collecting those last few elusive achievements. If everything goes according to plan, we will grab one or two more here today, as we kick things back off having just completed a thrilling covert extraction mission. Despite only having 2 soldiers to work with, it took us almost 25 minutes to complete it, and so here we are now, ready for the next adventure. And with that we can hop right back onto the bridge and into the world map. At the moment we are scanning for precious intel, so let's keep doing that and see if anything else pops up in the meantime.
Strategic resource located.
Right, 45 intel, that will help us keep a steady influx of alloys and delirium. And for our next rumor, we don't really have that great of a selection.
Avenger plotting new course.
From the 3 choices we have, the heavy weapon strikes me as the most sensible. This rumor can also drop experimental powered weapons, so perhaps we get lucky and find something useful. Or we don't get to scan at all and instead have our next mission appear. A UFO has landed in assassin territory. The Shadow Chamber only tells us of 10 enemies guarding it, and they're not exactly the aliens' elite units either. The perfect setup, I think, to give ourselves a bit of a challenge.
Setting course for West Asia.
Now, the video title already gave it away. We are planning to unlock the Overpowered Achievement, which is handed out for completing a mission with soldiers that are all of the same class. Admittedly, my original plan was to unlock this achievement with a squad of 6 grenadiers. Unfortunately though, half of those are currently unavailable, so instead we'll be doing it with rangers, and not 6 but 5 of them. Needless to say, this could get tricky. The main issue I think will be armor penetration, because we don't really have any attacks that shred armor, not to mention the necessity to get up close and personal on pretty much every single attack. To somewhat alleviate those problems, we have given the Boltcaster to Ranger Sibirski, and thanks to Warsuit, Exosuit and Rage Armor we can also bring 3 heavy weapons into this fight. Ranger Mig meanwhile wears the brand new Icarus armor, together with a Mimic Beacon, should things get dicey.
Sky Ranger deployed.
We're in the pipe, 5x5.
Resistance forces managed to disable a UFO that's set down in this region. And we've got an opportunity here to grab valuable tech from it before the aliens have a chance to recover. Eliminate any hostile resistance in the area and secure the site to retrieve the assets. Menace 1-5, UFO site coordinates locked in. Move to secure the area, neutralize all hostiles. Our position is masked.
So here we are then, with our 5 rangers who are hoping to complete today's challenge: Helleboris, Mig, Warhawk, Sibirski and Starfall. We do have an interesting set of abilities on all of them. Most importantly though, we have a landed UFO not too far away from our current position. So let's start scouting ahead with Ranger Helleboris. He does not detect anything, and that means the rest of the squad can follow suit. Ranger Warhawk though has a slightly higher movement range.
Hostiles making the rounds.
And as a result, he detects our first 2 enemies, a Lancer and a Mech. Nothing to worry about at the moment, we are still in concealment after all, and using the Icarus armor we can even get Ranger Mig onto the high ground, while Sibirski and his Boltcaster seek cover below, and that ends our turn. Lancer and Mech meanwhile move closer. Unfortunately though, they seem to be looping around the other side of the building here. Not really an ideal position, I think, to attack them on this turn. So while we are going to approach them, we will also move closer to the UFO in the process. At the moment, as you can see, the mission does not have a timer. However, that could soon change. Right, and just like that, we meet the next group of enemies, an Archon and a Shield Bearer. This definitely makes things a bit more interesting now. And to make things even more interesting, Mech and Lancer are also moving back in the direction they came from, and I was briefly getting concerned about the Mech spotting Warhawk here. Thankfully though, it stops just a tile or 2 short. Now at this point, the question is, do we start things off immediately and ideally with a bang, or do we wait and hope for the enemies to detect us on their turn, allowing us to get off a few overwatches and then getting a full turn to act afterwards? And I think we will be going for that second approach. Yes, starting off with a blaster bomb, for example, would be awfully tempting, but for a challenge like this in particular, I think it's best if we preserve some of our special tricks. So let's get Helleboris onto the high ground here, and I think we have enough people in compromised positions to get us spotted on the next turn.
Scanning. Overwatch. Eyes on the prize.
And there we go. Now one thing to keep in mind here is that those rangers who have the Phantom skill will not actually act on this turn. That is, unless they are directly spotted by some of the enemies. Otherwise, they will not break concealment just yet.
Sie haben uns entdeckt. Get it together.
Right, 3 shots, just 1 hit, not off to a great start here. At least Warhawk gets to go again though, as the Lancer here enters melee range.
Went off the armor.
Okay, so seems like the situation is rapidly evolving from bad to worse. Apparently we have 3 more Archons on the map and all of them have now spotted us, and unfortunately it looks like they won't remain the only ones.
I've got eyes on admin troops.
Right, so a Priest and another Lancer are now active too, and that's every single enemy on the map.
Menace 1-5, we just picked up an outbound signal coming from the UFO. It's some kind of distress beacon. You need to get inside that ship and shut down the signal before they send their whole fleet after us.
Alright, so as if the entire setup for this mission wasn't already difficult enough, we have just maneuvered ourselves into an extremely tricky situation, as 9 of the 10 enemies that we are going to find on this map have activated and are now looking to take us out. This also very strongly hints at the fact that enemy number 10 will indeed be the assassin, who should then activate on the next turn. And honestly, even with a well-balanced full 6-person squad, this here is a dicey situation, so let's see if we can solve it using only 5 rangers.
Moving to position.
Now up first we move and thus reveal Ranger Sobieski, but he has Shadow Step and is therefore not affected by the max Overwatch. That Overwatch, however, is still active, so let's remove it with Starfall's Axe Throw, just to avoid wasting an action point early. With the Overwatch then removed, we can now also get Ranger Warhawk going. He is going to take care of the other side of the battlefield, but not yet. First of all, with him out of the way, we can now use Sobieski's Shredder Gun. As you can see, he is perfectly positioned to hit 3 enemies at once. Alright, beautiful. The Lancer gets killed, Mech and Shield Bearer meanwhile look awfully vulnerable. Before we take care of them, however, let's shift over to Helleboris,
Legen wir endlich los.
who does have a pretty good chance of killing the Archon here, and even if he doesn't, he has Dragon Rounds equipped, so the Archon will be set on fire and should succumb to burning damage anyway.
Willst du noch mehr?
Or it just gets executed thanks to a superior repeater, not something you can usually rely on unless you're using Banish. In this case, however, Helleboris comes through. And that brings us to Ranger Starfall, who will now activate his Reaper ability, allowing him to keep spending action points as long as he keeps killing stuff with his sword, and he does have a few easy targets.
Check it before you get too close.
That takes care of the mech, and as you can see, we can now keep going. Up next, the Shield Bearer.
I think you should see this. That's it.
Right, critical hit for the kill, and we even grab some loot, a repeater and a superior conditioning PCS. Let's grab those, and then at least for the moment, switch over to Warhawk, who can now use his armor's free Rage Strike ability to attack the Lancer. As you can see, this did not cost him an action point, so he can still act, and even though the Lancer here is now disoriented and thus not as much of a threat anymore, we do want to take them out, but first let's activate Serial. Similarly to Reaper, this will allow Warhawk to just keep shooting as long as he's killing things.
Woo! You see that?
In this case, however, we are not going to use the ability to take out multiple enemies. Instead, we are just utilizing it to be able to shoot a blaster bomb afterwards. A blaster bomb that we are now targeting at the 2 Archons on top of the UFO.
Right behind ya.
both of our targets now entering a battle frenzy, we can jump back to Starfall, who will now use his free grappling action to get into melee range against one of the Archons. However, before we attack that one, let's take care of the one on the ground with Frostbite. This, the Serpent Suit armor ability, the second of 3 we have access to in this mission, and with an 85% hit chance, pretty likely to succeed. Alright, phenomenal, that's another Archon taken out, at least temporarily, which leaves us now with those 2 on the UFO and the Priest over here, and let's take care of the one right in front of Starfall. With a bit of luck we get a critical, and even if we don't, Starfall has killed on this turn and is therefore untouchable. Alright, only 9 points of damage, but I think Starfall has done plenty of good work this turn. So let us now unlock the first achievement of today's episode, as we use the Icarus armor special ability Icarus Jump, and together with Rage Strike and Frostbite we have now used all available ruler abilities in a single mission. We are also achieving something here that might look like I'm a strategic genius, but honestly this was not planned. Yes, the presence of someone wearing Icarus armor has a chance to cause Archons to panic, which in turn leads to the one next to Starfall moving, thus triggering Bladestorm. That hits and kills, thus triggering his still active Reaper ability, and all of a sudden Mr. Antac is back in the game. Once again, amazing sequence, probably one of my favorite moments of the series so far, but I would be lying if I said that it was planned out to happen this way. Regardless, we began all of this with Ranger Mig jumping into position, so let's keep going with him. As you can see, we do have a chance at the instant kill with Deadeye here, but then again against priests kills are not exactly instant anyway, so let us instead go with the shot that is at least guaranteed to hit. Once again we have Dragon Rounds equipped, so fire damage will come into play too. And indeed, the priest is now on fire with 6 hit points remaining. This will now shut down all of the priest's psionic abilities, which might actually lead to Mig getting hurt on the next turn. But with the assassin most likely set to appear too, I'll take that over mind control any day. Starfall meanwhile finishes his phenomenal turn with a critical melee strike against the Archon. Helleborus then uses his implacable movement to get himself into cover, and finally our turn comes to an end. The priest meanwhile keeps burning, the Archon is still frozen, the other Archon also takes some fire damage. All in all, a pretty good result for what seemed to be a very dicey situation.
So many have already fallen.
And there she is, as expected, the assassin is here too. At this point though, I have to say she is going to be tricky to deal with, especially that low profile strength will make her very tough to hit, and melee immunity against rangers is also something that could get interesting. So this fight here far from over.
And yet my work is never done.
The Chosen Assassin is moving near your position. Stay on guard, people. It's dead.
If the elders had expected more, then I wouldn't be here.
Je peux plus bouger. Il me tire dessus.
Okay, so a few lucky breaks for us here on the enemy turn. The Archon gets killed by Starfall's Bladestorm, the priest meanwhile misses their shot, and so I hope that we should be able to clean up the remaining enemies here without too much trouble. Now at this point, one thing that we haven't really talked about yet is the timer in the top right corner. A timer that is connected to this distress beacon here inside of the UFO. Over the next 3 turns, we should get someone to hack this beacon, otherwise enemy reinforcements will drop in. Not the end of the world of course, but considering our current squad, something that we should probably want to avoid. Still, let's take things one step at a time and focus on the enemies first.
It's over there.
And we begin with a guaranteed hit from Warhawk against the frozen Archon. We then follow that up with another guaranteed hit from Helleborus. And after reloading, we can have Starfall go for the kill, which will then once again trigger his implacable and untouchable abilities.
I got it, right?
Those 2 abilities are obviously important, as the assassin is set to move in soon. Before she does though, let's clean up properly and take out the priest here too. As expected, they now go into their sustained stasis, but they are still burning, and with only 1 hit point remaining, that is guaranteed to take them out. So let's regroup in front of the UFO and send Starfall a bit deeper inside.
Okay, I'll go.
Yes, we are using him as bait here to draw out the assassin. His untouchable ability should keep him safe.
A trivial loss, easily replaced.
As expected then, the priest perishes to the flames and the assassin can't resist, revealing herself only to strike air.
Taking every
I
fire!
will not accept this. To be among the chosen is a great honor, but to have fallen so quickly, the elders will not be pleased.
We've got the Chosen in our sights. It's time to take them out.
I will not be outmatched, nor outnumbered.
Okay, so after the failed attack against Starfall, the assassin uses her Mech Lord ability to summon 2 heavy mechs. Both of them have now gone on Overwatch, which is certainly not making this fight any easier. The assassin herself, meanwhile, has vanished into cover behind the wall over here. On the bright side, her appearance has also temporarily halted the timer for the distress beacon, so at least we do not have to worry about that as well. And because we also don't really want to worry about those 2 mechs for the moment either, let's use a Frost Bomb now. It would be wasted on the assassin anyway. Meanwhile, the 2 mechs here are just perfectly positioned. Well, that may be the case, but at least we are going to win this fight, at least that is what I'm hoping, as we now move with Starfall to regain sight of our adversary.
I'm trusting you here.
So there she is, 62 hit points and 4 points of armor, and we don't really have many ways left to deal with that armor. Not to mention that after landing the first attack here, the assassin will also get a noticeable defense increase, so this here the best chance we get to use Starfall's rapid fire. Let's hope he can connect twice.
Finally, a true strike.
Win up the honor!
I won't be slowed by your feeble attacks.
Alright, Starfall as always delivering 25 points of damage despite the armor, which now brings us to Helleboris, who can hopefully do something about that armor, using the recently unlocked Shredstorm cannon to potentially also remove some cover. At the very least, the attack is guaranteed to hit.
Get shredded!
Alright, so armor removed and we are down to half health. Unfortunately though, the wall that the assassin is hiding behind is still standing, and unfortunately that is most likely going to be enough to ensure that she survives until the next turn. Still, we are not done with this one just yet, so let's use another Icarus jump charge. Unlike Rage Strike and Frostbite, we can use this twice per mission, so let's fly Ranger Mig into a flanking position. At this point, we can also see the assassin's defense increase in full effect. Despite standing very close to her, Deadeye here only having a 50% chance to hit, as the assassin's defense has jumped up from 20 to 40%. Against any other enemy then, we would of course take this shot, especially looking at the crit chance. Problem is, the assassin also generates shielding on missed shots, so let's move in just a little bit closer and then fire regularly. Still, the best we can do is 80%.
Never commit to strike unless you are truly ready.
And there is definitely some truth to those words, as the assassin now generates 3 points of shielding. Not really much we can do about that though, this was definitely the best shot to take. And since the wall here is sadly still intact, Sabirski can also unfortunately not follow up with a shot of his own. Well, he could, but the hit chance is abysmal, so to have him do something of worth, let's target one of the mechs instead.
Target, minimal damage.
On the Chosen turn then, the assassin moves, her melee immunity obviously not triggering Bladestorm, and with Mig and Starfall standing close to each other, she does have a little present for them.
Descend into the mist. There is no place you can run that I cannot reach.
Alright, so the assassin has just used her Mountain Mist ability, a grenade that blinds all units in the blast radius. Certainly not the worst status effect, especially not for rangers. It limits their line of sight to only 5 tiles, so they can't target any enemies beyond that and need to get closer to them. But again, that's the ranger playstyle anyway, so we're not really losing much. Crucially, the effect does not actually impact hit chance when we do have line of sight, And at the beginning of a new turn, the assassin's defense also resets to only 20%, which does make Helleboris' chain shot here the better option compared to Mick's Deadeye, not to mention that with each shot he also has a chance to instantly kill the assassin.
The pain will only strengthen my focus.
Okay, one hit, one miss, and we are back to 3 points of kinetic plating. The hit chance for Mick's Deadeye once again completely messed up at this point, and even if he were to hit, a kill would not be guaranteed, so let us instead go for the 79%er. Maybe this time he can strike true. Okay, this time the assassin dodges, but thankfully that is technically still considered a hit, so the plating is removed and not regenerated. Still, we have 14 hit points left to deal with, so let's move in Starfall. Thanks to an aim PCS, he thankfully still has a 90% hit chance, hopefully enough to score the kill here.
That's it!
It's rare to find an opponent worthy of my skills. Rarer still to find one capable of besting me more than once.
Great job, Commander. But there's no trace of that Chosen left. I've got a feeling we haven't seen the last of them. Still, at least we ruined their plans today.
So, that's the assassin defeated once more, but the mission is not over yet. Those two mechs will thaw and get to act on the next turn. So let's get Starfall into Bladestorm range, reload Sobieski's Boltcaster and then take another shot. 12 points of damage would be enough for the kill.
Hostile terminated.
Alright, that's one mech less to worry about, and we even have another loot drop, so the first order of business on Warhawk's turn here is to collect it. Stock, repeater, and some more intel in form of an Advent datapad, that's lovely.
Got the loot.
Let us now finish our turn shooting that last remaining mech. Even if we don't get the kill, we will get double Bladestorms afterwards.
Hard target, minimal damage. Need a resupply.
Right, unfortunately Warhawk misses with the Bladestorm.
Armor still holding. Not even close.
With a bit of luck, that could have been the kill already. Instead, we are now getting blasted. Now, to be honest, the only thing the attack by the mech here messed up was the flawless mission rating. Helleboris takes 3 points of damage and Mick takes 2. Both of them should recover from that in a few days, I think. And so let's begin our next turn here by giving Warhawk a chance to redeem himself.
There you go.
And indeed, this time he does not miss and the last enemy of the mission goes down. As you can see though, the mission is not complete until we shut down the distress beacon, and Starfall will be the man for the job. With a hacking stat of 20, he is our most competent hacker on this mission.
What's over there?
So let's have him tap in and see what we can obtain.
I can try.
Alright, 2 intel caches for 19 and 11% respectively. Let's go for the small one here to maximize our chances, and surprisingly we actually succeed, so Starfall definitely doing it all today.
We're through. We've knocked out the alien distress signal. Looks like the skies are quiet. Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
And just like that, the mission is complete and we have unlocked the Overpowered Achievement. Again, not exactly the way I had planned for this to go, but it was definitely a nice little challenge doing this with only 5 rangers. I would like to imagine that 6 grenadiers would have had a slightly easier time. Regardless, we have made it, not without injuries, but still, those should be quick to recover from as we now head back to the base.
If anything, I fear we are making it easier for them to catalog our people.
Advent officials revealed today's maneuver by local peacekeepers was a planned exercise. Citizens should not be alarmed. All weapon fire and wounds were simulated to better train Advent forces.
This just goes to show that the Chosen are vulnerable and we can take them down. We just have to figure out how to keep them down.
Alright, the injury is then not as bad as I had feared, 3 days and 5 days, although Heliboris is also shaken, so effectively he will be out of action for slightly longer. No promotions then. I had secretly hoped for one for Sibirski, but on the plus side we recover a ton of goodies, not only the loot we collected during the mission, but also a good amount of alloys, Elerium crystals and even 2 Elerium cores. This should keep our engineering department running for a little while longer. And with that, I think we have now reached a good point to make the cut in today's episode. I will now get back to working on that anomaly video, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. Also, if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.